Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Common Sense with Conn radio call-in talk show here on KTEM 1400 on your dial. We have this show every Saturday, and
And we would like to tell you thank you because we will continue to have this show for a little bit longer.
yeah, let me explain that just a minute here. But let me also say the number to call in is 773-1400. That's 773-1400. So if y'all have something to say, well, call in and we'll visit with you about it. But first off, I want to say that today was going to be the last show of Common Sense with Conn. But it's not going to be the last show for Common Sense because I've had several really good supporters.
They want to see common sense prevail.
Yeah, they wanted to see Common Sense keep on keeping on. So I just can't say enough good things about people like that support this show. And I just I get a lump in my throat just thinking about it because the people that have stepped up to keep this show on the air, they're not millionaires. They're common people, and when I get a donation from them, or I'll say a support from them financially, very often if they send $25 or $2,500 or whatever, it may be the last money they got.
Yeah, some of them are stretched pretty tight, and yet this show is so important to them. They feel that it gives their voice a chance to be heard.
Well, it does, and it reminds me of the scripture in the Bible that refers to. It says something to the effect that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than it is for a rich man to enter heaven. And I'm reminded of that when I see just common people step up and send money to the GoFundMe page or whatever. Now, I just, and I'm not going to mention his name, but there's a fellow that I've known for years and years and years, and I know that he is not a millionaire. But he stepped up and is largely responsible for this show staying on the air. And I'm just saying it's common people that support this show. It's not multi-millionaires. It's not the social elitists. It's just common people. And I quote a man that I forgot now who it was, but he said, "I only choose to be a common man," and that description fits me just fine. I don't want to be an elitist. I don't want to be a holier than thou. I just want to be a common man, and that's all I am. And I plead guilty to that. And that's what this show is all about. It's just common people that express common sense views of the world that they live in.
Common language.
Yeah, in a common language. I really enjoy a fellow named Victor Davis Hanson. He's with the Hoover Institute, and he's on Fox News pretty often. What I appreciate about Victor Davis Hanson is he speaks with a common language. He does not use $10 words to describe something.
And he has tons of degrees
He's
behind
got
him. But
all kind of degrees, but he has still got a lot of common sense, and he speaks with a common language. Now, let me tell you what I'm talking about.
he doesn't speak like an elitist.
He doesn't speak like an elitist, and I couldn't understand him if he did. But let me give you a comparison. That guy is a lying dog, and I done lost my train of thought.
That's because you were saying it backwards.
I guess so. Someone's talking to you, and he said, "Well, that fella is
Well, the thing was that that we were talking earlier was that the Democrats, they were on stage the other night, and their language was such that a lot of common folks, Walmart people per se, wouldn't have known what some of those words were.
Yeah.
And what that is an invisible wall segregation between the elite and the have not, or the uneducated, or the unwanted, or the deplorables, or whatever. Yet, they are trying to get everybody in prison to be able to vote. That's always interesting.
Well,
But
yeah, the example I was trying to make, and before I lost my train of thought, was you can say, I believe that man is disingenuous, and that can be problematic. Why do you want to say that when you could just say, he's a lying dog, and that's a problem?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
which is the easiest to understand? I understand he's a lying rascal, and that's a problem. And I also understand that he might be disingenuous, and that's problematic. I understand that too. But does every truck driver, carpenter, plumber, farmer, rancher, do they understand what in the cat hair the guy is
The
trying to say?
tradesmen are not appreciated. We are the deplorables.
Yeah, I
Those who
guess.
brand cattle, like we will next Saturday. And I won't be here, folks. Sorry, but yeah, we are not respected. We are not wanted. We are not important.
Well, it's
And I don't shop at Walmart much.
well, but the question I have is, are we weaponizing our vocabulary?
Yes,
And
because
we're weaponizing it to the point that we leave out a lot of the Walmart shoppers or the non-elitist. Here is Kevin in Rogers, and Kevin, what do you allow this morning or today?
Well, well, there are so many issues to talk about, but I just kind of wanted to hit on the debate and who is now the Democratic debates and who is now emerging as the maybe the candidate who is
Yeah.
going to win.
The front runner.
Apparently, Kamala Harris has gained support because of her performance. Um, Number one, I wasn't impressed with her attack on Biden about the busing issue and the saying that he could get along with all types of people. I thought that was what we were supposed to do, regardless of what the people thought or their beliefs, that we could sit down and discuss things with them civilly. But, the Democrats' new normal is you don't even discuss things with people that you don't agree with. You
No.
just shut them up.
And what I don't like about what she did was she used the biggest weapon she could find. And what is that weapon?
racism.
It's the term racist.
Yes,
And
and that's problematic for me too, because some of these people try to come off as being so basically so anti-white, but yet she's married to a white person. So you marry a person from a group who you think has destroyed the world. I mean, it's
Well, and not only that, Kevin, remember that her grandfather did a big article in some magazine talking about how their family were very prolific in the slave trade and had plantations.
yeah.
All the grandmothers, they all had lots and lots of slaves. Yet that wasn't brought up. Nobody questioned her about that and her
Yeah,
racism.
yeah. They just give these people, these leftists, really a total free pass. And the other reason that I'm not impressed with her is I just don't think she's very bright. She's been caught in a lot of things that she said, and and of course that brings up the other point that she lies. I mean, she says stuff, and then she immediately has to take it back and say that's not what she meant. I mean,
well, now hold the phone, Kevin. Now, did she lie, or was she just possibly being disingenuous?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
your word of the day.
Exactly. And the other thing about her is that basically she's a call girl.
Oops.
It's been reported in the mainstream press, and Willie Brown, the former Speaker of the House of California, has come out and verified that she was his girlfriend when he was married, and he gave her appointments to different things because of their relationship. And I don't have much respect for anybody who advances their career, on their back. I'm sorry.
So
I
you're
just
saying
don't.
she slipped her way to the top?
Yeah.
There was a place down in south of here in LaGrange, Texas, called the Chicken Ranch. Now, you're probably not familiar with the Chicken Ranch, and I did not frequent that place, but
Frequent?
yeah.
As in, you never went, right?
I drove by on the highway, but that's about as close
Okay,
as
just
I got.
wanted to clarify that.
But I'm just saying, maybe Kamala Harris would have gone very well at the Chicken Ranch.
Yeah. Well, I just, are we supposed to venerate somebody who didn't advance themselves on merit, but who they got close to? I didn't think that was the American way. So,
but keep in mind, Kevin, it's not the American way for the Secretary of State, being Hillary Clinton, to sell her office for the favors that the Clinton family got from Russia, whoever it was, all those places. When they gave Bill Clinton $500,000 for a 20-minute speech. Now, do you believe that they really wanted to hear that 20 minutes, or do you believe they were buying favors from the Secretary of State? That is so obvious.
Yeah, it's obvious they were buying favors, and if they were on the other side of the political spectrum, she would be in jail, because they don't let conservatives get away with stuff like that. They will come after them if they possibly can for anything. But yet and still, Democrats, it's like there is no justice or law for them. They can do whatever they can get away with for as long as they can get away with it until until the end of time, I guess, because there are people walking around now involved in all this hoax that they put Trump through for a year and 2 years, over 2 years, that should be, at least in custody and awaiting trial.
But this is common practice for the Democratic Party, as it was when they had this Iran thing earlier in the week. The Democrats were on the phone with Iran in a heartbeat, and they were totally undermining the president. And nothing happened. It talked about
nothing.
2 seconds.
And since when is that even good foreign policy for the United States to have 2 different tracks for whatever the country's goals are? I mean, you're not supposed to do that at all.
Well, Kevin, let me ask you a question. If your son gets now there's an advertisement on the radio that I hear all the time, and I cut it off when it comes on. This little kid is saying, "Mommy, when are we going to the store? Mommy, 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 Mommy." Now, if she stops and buys him a Hershey candy bar, did she reward bad behavior?
Yes.
And did she encourage bad behavior?
Yes.
Absolutely, she did.
Absolutely.
If Hillary Clinton is rewarded for her bad behavior, what example does that set for the next Secretary of State or the next politician that wants to get $500,000 for a 20-minute speech?
Well, she just got $500,000 for the poor children at the border. Yeah, I wonder how much of that the children will see.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I keep repeating that, but when you reward bad behavior, Kevin, what do you expect to get more of?
Well, I think that's basically what the Democrats' strategy is. They do want to reward bad behavior because they want more of the same. They don't want to vet people who come in here. They don't want the people who come in here legally, because those people have to be squeaky clean. They have to take all kinds of tests, medical tests, all kinds of criminal background. So the people who come here legally are fine. But they don't want those people, because those people are more likely to be good citizens.
Well,
and
they're less likely to be influenced by.
Exactly. Exactly. They're not as needy. They come here to work. They come here to be part of the system. But the people who come in illegally, a lot of those people, especially the ones from south of the border, they come in here just to take. I mean, if you listen to a lot of those people, they're always talking about F America. They don't care about this country. They just want to get whatever they can take and whatever they can send back to their country. If they could work here for a number of years and then go back with all the money that they've saved or whatever, that's what a lot of them do. They really don't care about this country, and that's why we have the problem that we have.
But Kevin, why do we have Democrat candidates for president calling for open borders? You know, isn't that calling for the destruction of this Judeo-Christian society called America?
Yes, and
absolutely it is.
Gentlemen, let me expand on this just a little bit. In Minnesota, a city council is the first to vote to do away with the Pledge of Allegiance, 5-0, because it's uncomfortable for non-citizens that are residents to come to the city council meetings and to conduct city business and have to pledge their allegiance to this country that they are not a resident, they're not a citizen of.
Mm-hmm. And I think they should be sent right, if they're so uncomfortable that they can take the next bus or train to the airport and they can go right back to where they came from. And we used to have that attitude in this country, but we don't have that anymore. We don't have that anymore. So it's just, obviously there is a contingent of people who have been trying to destroy this country for decades, since the 60s, and so their goal is to get as many people in this country as possible who they can brainwash into hating the country, and in that way overthrow it. And they want these people to be dependent, so they will always have to rely on them, so they can control them. I mean, it's just, and people see this, but conservatives just sit meekly by and let it happen.
That's why I keep quoting that old country music song, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
If we don't, there's some just basic, old-fashioned, old-timey sayings that are so true, and it applies today. For example, the old saying, silence is consent. All right, if we good, freedom-loving Americans just remain silent in the face of all this communist take, whatever you want to call it, then we're just as guilty as they are, Kevin.
Yeah.
If you don't stand up against it, you're part of it.
We have no fighting spirit whatsoever, and I mean, to me, they have found several threads in our flag, if you will, talking about the country, and they keep pulling on those flags, unweaving the fabric of our country.
Oh, exactly.
You know, and in this little way of the city council not acknowledging and performing the Pledge of Allegiance anymore is just a root thread.
It reinforces the idea that whatever is going on in this country is subservient to the people who come here.
Yes.
And that's ridiculous.
Yes, that's a great point.
One of the questions I wanted to ask today was, and a point I wanted to make, right now we are faced with a threat from Red China. We're faced with a threat from Russia. But we're also faced with a threat from within the United States, the threat being communism, socialism, whatever you want to call it. Which of those three threats is the largest threat that we face in this country?
Inside the United States, and I think
absolutely.
I think the Russians, and I'm not that concerned about the Russians, but the Chinese and all these other foreign powers, they know that if they can weaken the country from within, that it will be much easier for them to just walk right in and take over.
Exactly.
Before I go, one thing about the Chinese, I thought about it for a while, and we don't remember that the Chinese, China is a godless country. They have been without God or without a religion for since Mao took over. And so I tied this tie this to why it's why they steal intellectual property, and they do stuff like put antifreeze in. Companies have been sent to prison over there for putting antifreeze in things that babies consume, because the antifreeze has a sweet taste or something like that, and they can substitute it. And you wonder, why would companies do things like that are so, horrific? And it's because they don't have any kind of moral compass over there, because they are totally without God. I mean, the government is the God, and so whatever the government says or lets you get away with, that's fine. And so it's really going to be difficult.
Kevin, what kind of moral compass does a company have that buys that product from Red China?
Well,
just for example, the USDA about a year ago stopped McDonald's hamburgers and Kentucky Fried Chicken from buying their meat in Red China because it was contaminated. My question there is, what kind of moral integrity do they have that buys that product that they know might poison their customers, but they do it because of the small financial incentive?
Oh, exactly. That's why Apple is now moving their, Mac Pro operations or whatever to China. I mean, these companies are transnational, and they have no loyalty, most of them, to this country anymore. And that's why Trump is right to crack down, because they need to make a choice. Are they going to support the country that gave them birth, or are they just going to do whatever they can do to make a profit, even though it undermines the whole country?
Well, now, Kevin, I have a choice to make also. Am I going to buy my hamburger at McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Am I going to buy baby formula that I know is made in Red China, or the toothpaste?
Well, they don't use it either. They send a flotilla of ships, military ships, to Australia to pick up baby formula.
Well,
yeah.
I'm just saying, we have a choice to make also. And the choice that we have to make in this country today is whose side. There ain't but two sides in this fight, folks. There's Satan and there's God.
Exactly.
Whose side are you on?
Exactly.
Well, it seems like it would be much wiser for the United States to start looking to other countries, smaller markets, to sell our goods to. And that would even put more pressure on China, but it would also broaden it out so that we're not so...
Kevin, we sure do appreciate your call.
Well, I love the show. Thank you very much.
Well, appreciate the call.
It has been a fun call, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
We're going to go to break, folks. We'll be right back.
I just want to compliment or thank our sponsors and our callers. It takes both, to keep this thing alive. And I just cannot say enough good things about what has happened in the last week. This show was going to stop today, but in the last week we have had people send to the GoFundMe page. We've had one very, very good supporter cough up a sizable amount. And I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to embarrass him or get him in trouble with some of his liberal. He don't have any liberal friends, I don't think. But anyway, I won't mention his name.
Several people that have really dug deep to make the show stay on the air, several more weeks, and it's greatly appreciative. And it lets us know that we're doing a good job. It lets us know that the community wants it. I mean, we know that by having 11 to 12 callers per Saturday on the general basis, when a lot of shows only have a few, and they're on the phone, they're on the radio maybe 2 or 3 hours a day or 4 hours a day. So
I just can't say enough good things about people like my friend or friends, plural, that have stepped up in the last week to help keep this show on the air. And I would say that I do believe in God, and I do believe that sometime God whispers in somebody's ear and they're listening and they get up and make out a check. I think that's what happened this week. So I'm going to give credit to the folks that wrote out the check and the one that inspired them to do so. Now, I try real hard not to get off into religion, but how do you avoid talking about religion?
How do you avoid talking about it when you always say there's only two sides of this coin?
Yeah.
Okay, if you go away, that's just one less voice out there fighting for sanity.
Well, and I know that I'll say that phrase too often, I guess, but the further time goes on, the more obvious it is that Satan is alive and well, and he's out there doing everything he can do to destroy this country. And there are some good Christian people that are helping him. That's what I cannot figure out. For example, the first thing Barack Obama said was, I want to fundamentally change this country. Okay, I asked the question then, just a common sense question, folks. If you live in the greatest country in the history of the world, what are you going to change it to? And when you change anything, I don't care if it's your washing machine or your car or whatever it is, you need to ask the question, change from what to what? So there are people in this country that want to change America. Change it to what? Change it to Venezuela? Change it to socialism? What do you want to change it to? But how much of that attitude is coming from our universities and our colleges? John Voight last night made the statement that I think one of his granddaughters came home from college and made the statement, the U.S. Constitution is crap. Well, she learned that at the university. Now, who did she learn it from? Was that a good, patriotic Christian professor? Or was it a card-carrying dadgum communist like the fellow over there at University of Texas that teaches journalism? Who did she learn that from? I don't know, but the number of card-carrying registered communists in this country seems to be growing. And it seems to be growing the most in our universities and colleges. I better get off that subject before I get mad, and I already am. But we're turning our youth over to these kinds of people, and what kind of product do we expect to get back?
And they're taught by the parents, go to school, behave, listen to your teachers, learn what you're supposed to learn. But nobody is telling them to think on their own, and nobody is giving them any kind of additional feedback, and so they just assume that this authoritative figure is accurate.
Well, they're not taught common sense, to use common sense and logic and rational thinking. They're not taught that. They're taught to accept socialism or radicalism or whatever you want to call it. That's what they're being taught, and that's what they're doing.
But the school boards are also allowing for these opinions of the teachers, the instructors, to be verbalized in the classroom.
Well,
we have a phone. Oh, so sorry, Rick.
Yeah,
Conn got way off on topic, and I forgot to because I got caught up in it.
See, I got stirred up there. Kevin got me all stirred up, Rick. I'm sorry about that.
That's fine. Hey, you know who won the debate last night? Or Thursday night?
Who won it, if there was a winner?
Donald Trump.
Yay!
Absolutely. You are 100%
You know what?
right.
You know when he won it is when the moderator asked all the candidates, "Will you give free health care to the illegal aliens?"
Yeah.
He didn't say it that way.
Yeah.
And they all raised their hands.
100% of them said yes.
Yes. So
Why yeah. Now, Rick, you done got me started here. We were just listening to, I think, the senator from Louisiana, Mr. Kennedy, and he made the statement that America, our government, borrows $1 million a minute.
To run the government.
Not an hour, not a week, not a year, $1 million a minute to run the government. And all of these people, be nice, Conn, all of these people want to increase that to how many $1 million a minute? How much will it increase it if they get what they're proposing to give free health care to everybody, give free college to everybody?
Wow.
Yeah, basically the Democrat platform this political season is vote for me. It'll all be free.
Yeah.
Well, somebody said once, when any society learns it can vote itself benefits, it will self-destruct. And that is what we are seeing happen in America today as we speak, Rick.
Well, even Brett Stevens from the New York Times says that people perhaps most appalled by the Dems debates are conservatives who want to defeat Trump. They look at the Dem field, and one, can't see anyone they can support, and two, can't see anyone that can beat Trump.
Well, yeah, it's really funny the way Camilla Harris says talks about racism and stuff to Joe Biden, and she calls herself an African American, but her daddy was Jamaican,
yeah,
and her mother was from India, and also she said something. Before I go, I gotta just bring this out. Somebody brought this up to Rush Limbaugh, a caller did, and it's really interesting. When Camilla Harris said, when she said, they just want, she said, they're worried about how we're gonna put food on their table. You know, it's not, she didn't say they're worried about how they're gonna put food on their table. She said they're worried about how we're gonna put food on their table. Socialism, you know, you don't put your own food on your table. The government does.
Well, that's why, Rick, I keep saying we're headed toward the next slave days. But the slave owner is going to be the socialist government, and the slaves are going to be we, the tax-paying people. As they get us more addicted to social programs, be it free food, free cell phones, free whatever, and that's what Obama sponsored more than anything else, was free everything, then we're going to be the slaves, and when the slave owner or the slave master says, you will go to work in the salt mine in Siberia, then you're going to have to go, or else you quit getting anything to eat.
Yeah, you know, they talk about free education, but they don't tell you that you're probably not going to have a choice of the field in which you decide to get an education in. They're going to choose that field.
Oh, and one last thing. All you listeners out there, and you wonderful supporters of this show, and do you want to be like California? I mean, I've never been there, thank God, but I don't want to. I don't want to live in a place where you have to avoid stepping on needles and feces all over the place. I don't want to live in a place where there's tent cities everywhere, where unspeakable things are going on there, where there's, I mean, it's just disgusting. I can't even discuss it on the air. It's so disgusting. You wouldn't believe how disgusting that place is.
Well,
is that
and Rick, do you want to live in a place where they increase your taxes on your health insurance so they can give free health insurance to illegals that just waited to cross the river?
Oh, and the property taxes and stuff, and then even after you leave, then they chase you down.
And it's so horrible. It's such a beautiful state, and they've destroyed it. And that's the way that the whole country's going to be if we allow people like Hillary Clinton, which is basically what every one of those people are that were on the stage. If we let somebody like that become president of the United States, we might as well just, I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't want to end this call in such a dismal note, because I believe that Donald Trump really won that debate. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for the call.
Thank you for the
and
call,
hanging
Rick.
on. Sorry about that.
Rick is always a good caller, and I appreciate those kind of calls. That's what this radio show is all about, folks, is people like Kevin and Rick and so many others that call in. And, boy, they are good callers. They make good points. They use a lot of good common sense. And I think that's who listens to and supports this show. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate the support that we've had to keep this show on the air. But I got to be careful thinking about that because I get a dadgum lump in my throat and I can't swallow and I can't talk. And
then I got to talk.
And then Tina's got to step in there and talk. So,
yeah, and I don't like to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you do, too. You ain't kidding me. But at any rate, I'm sure that I say some things that offend some people. And I don't apologize for that. If I'm telling the truth and I offend you, then so be it. Get over it. But you may want to go investigate what I said and see if it is true. Because we so often today, we don't want to hear truth. We want to hear politically correctness. And anytime you trade truth for political correctness, you're making a hell of a bad mistake, folks. So, but anyway, here's old Joe going to tell me something. Joe, what do you think about it?
Well, first of all, I want to inject a little positivity here this afternoon on the Lee Crosby Community Center. We're going to have our grand opening next Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning, open to the public. We're going to serve some refreshments in the morning. We're going to have some dignitaries there.
What is it again, Joe? You said it real fast, kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Say it again.
The Lee Crosby Community Center, the Veterans Project that we've been working on for about a year and a half now, is finally complete. So we're going to open it to the public to come in and take a look at it. It's on Hope Street, in there behind Dunbar Meredith School, in that back area back there. I think we've got about 6 to 8 out of 24 townhouses that are rented out. So still a lot of availability for veterans who are looking to have home ownership in that particular project. And it's just it's been an awesome thing in the process and trying to get it done. And I'm so glad we're finally going to be wrapping it up and kind of putting it to bed and moving on to the next one.
Well, and Joe, we really do appreciate yourself and others like you that service the community and you service our veterans. And you know, I talk pretty often about DAV in Nolanville, but doggone, they do such a good job of servicing our veterans and our veterans' spouses, and you're doing the same thing. And I just can't tell you how much we appreciate your effort, and we just give you a great big old attaboy.
Well, and I appreciate that. I just want to make one other comment because I heard you earlier this morning on the talk show asking about the gasoline prices and how, and I think they kind of dodged what the answer or the question, and your question is kind of the same as mine. Anytime anything happens, I don't care how many millions of gallons of oil we already have over in this country. Why is it that if there's a thunderstorm or whatever, automatically the prices go up? I mean, you want to talk about inflating and profiting on something like that. It's just amazing to me. Over the last week, prices have gone up almost 12 cents a gallon.
Well, and, you know, my question there, Joe, was are prices being manipulated not by supply and demand, but by the news media, the headlines, or whatever? You know, think about it, if you own a stock in an oil company and the price of crude oil goes up $1 a gallon or $10 a gallon, how does that affect your investment? And
yes.
if they can put something on the front page of the New York Times that scares you into doing something, then does that affect your profitability in that stock that you own? So are we being influenced not by supply and demand, but by emotion?
Well, and I think it's obvious, and you know, it's guys like me and you that pretty much ask that question that don't get the straight answer, but we obviously know that it is. I mean, come on, man. There hasn't been any hurricanes or anything, And normally, something like that, then all of a sudden it's a national disaster and prices automatically skyrocket. But I still get back to the point where how many millions of gallons of oil and gas are already here before something happens, but they automatically say, okay, here's our chance to increase our profits by I don't know how much, because that stuff is already paid for. It's in the...
Well, Joe, have they learned to weaponize fear?
I think obviously they have. Obviously they have.
You see that,
and that's a good point. That's a good way to put it.
Well, and it is so obvious what they're doing, but it also is so obvious that sometimes we don't see it. But
yes.
Look at how they've weaponized fear, they've weaponized emotion, they've weaponized, as I just stated a while ago, the greatest weapon you can use against anybody is the word racist. Oh my gosh, you're a lot better off to be called a child molester than you are a racist. And what's wrong with us? Why are we as a society falling for that? But we are.
Yeah, we are. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. I'll get off and let the next caller get on. But, man, I'm glad to hear your programs are going to continue. I'm a definite follower and listener, and I appreciate what you're doing for us out there.
Well, and we appreciate what you're doing for the veterans there, Joe. So don't lose the phone number.
We're so glad to hear from you again. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem.
Okay.
All right, guys. Good luck.
Thanks
appreciate
a lot, Joe.
Have a great 4th of July.
We're going to try to.
Okay.
We got about 7 minutes. Do you want to talk about the Gold Star families at Washington?
You mean there's only 7 minutes
left in the first hour? So, if somebody wants to call, we got time for a short call, or you can start going over some of your notes.
I don't know what happens to time around here.
We get to talking.
I think this clock up here has got a high-speed button on it.
Well, you better hurry up and talk about the Gold Star because we got a call now.
Okay, I want to bring up the fact that the Gold Star families are going to have a rally in D.C. Right in front of the Congressional building. They're going to have all kinds of Gold Star families that have lost loved ones in the service. And they're going to rally up there, and it'll be a rally of Gold Star families and patriotic people that are standing up against socialism and are standing for our constitutional principles. Now, I would like to encourage anyone who can and can afford to and are willing to go to that rally in Washington, D.C. Let's show our politicians that we haven't forgotten about our Gold Star families, and we haven't forgotten about why those men died and what for.
We got 4 minutes, so
we got we got
JB on the line from
okay.
Moody.
JB, talk to me and get me straightened out here. What do you got on your mind today?
Well, I watched the JV debate on Wednesday night. I didn't watch the varsity team. But, and as a guy who considers himself a fairly liberal thinker, not a Democrat by any means, the things that they were talking about and saying, and by the way, the two biggest morons were from the state of Texas.
What was their names?
It would be Castro and O'Rourke. One of them looked like he forgot to take his meds. And the other one was talking about transgender females having an abortion, which we go ahead and fund that because that ain't going to cost nothing.
Talk about an idiot now, and we're thinking about electing him as president of the United States? Come on.
He was doing pretty good till he said that. And what scared me was people cheered. And I'm thinking, this guy ain't even took goddamn 5th grade science.
What?
It's impossible. Just because you wear women's clothes don't mean you got a uterus. I thought...
Yeah, hold the phone, Joe. You're saying that you would deny transgenders the right to an abortion? Is that...
Oh, no, they can have that
transgender females.
Yeah.
Oh.
Go ahead. They can. We'll have taxpayer-funded transgender men's abortion. Yeah, sure. Okay, let's pass that one. Let's run that through the Congress. Yeah, for the 0.03% of the population that can't get pregnant, yeah, we'll fund that one for you. But that's the biggest thing, though, is that word free. And like I said, even as a kind of a liberal myself, that's the ugliest word in the English language right now is free, because nothing is free. Somebody's paying for it.
But that's just like putting a lead rope on a horse, JB. They use the word free to lead you around with, and like I said a while ago, Senator Kennedy made the statement, we're borrowing $1 million per minute to fund a lot of this free stuff. That's not just to fund our military, that funds the social programs and all the freebies that the Democrats want to give out, and they want to increase that. Is that what we want in this country?
Hey, Joe, do you have your radio on? If you do, can you turn it down, please?
No, I ain't got it on. I got the air conditioner on. I'm turning that off. I'm fixing to be at the house. But, yeah, we need to get off of this free. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, liberal, conservative, right, left. Nothing is free. And but people say that, it just irritates me. Nothing's free. Your salvation's not free. And I'm as Christian as they come. Somebody paid for it. The air you breathe is not free. Nothing is free. And that's what, but from the lack of education that people have had because the government got involved, and the destruction of the American family, which started about 60, 70 years ago, people just they're just not educated. They're not responsible, and that's how we got where we are.
They're educated, JB, but they're educated in the wrong direction. They're not being educated, they're being brainwashed. And who's doing the brainwashing? Look at what kind of professors we have now that are teaching our 20-something-year-old people. And what are they teaching them? We need to take a look at this because it's the threat, it's the enemy within. JB, we appreciate your call, but I think that they're fixing to have us go to the top of the hour.
Yeah, hard break. We'll be back in about 6 minutes.
Y'all hang in there. We'll be back in just a few minutes.